Net neutrality is great.
How so?
When we log onto the internet, we take lots of things for granted. We assume that we'll be able to access whatever website we want, whenever we want to go there. We assume that we can use any feature we like, watching online video, listening to podcasts, searching, emailing and instant messaging, anytime we choose. We assume that we can attach devices like wireless routers, game controllers or extra hard drives to make our online experience better.
Okay.
What makes all these assumptions possible is network neutrality, the guiding principle that preserves the free and open internet.
I thought it was the assumption that certain parties mutually agreed on a cost per benefit transaction wherein a cost was applied to a service and it was agreed the cost met the value of the service enough to pay for it.
Well, now the biggest cable and telephone companies would like to charge money for smooth access to websites, speed to run applications, and permission to plug in devices.
Isn't that the way it's always been? I don't remember a time when I didn't have to pay for the internet, and when I want to use my smartphone as a hotspot, I have to pay for that too. I don't mind. It's an added service to me and an added cost to them. When I don't want it, I just don't pay for it. Like apples and toilet paper and everything else in the world we buy when we want or need it.
These network giants believe they should be able to charge website operators, application providers and device manufacturers for the right to use the network.
Did you even listen to a word I just said? This is nothing new. They are providing a service. If you or the website do not want the service, you don't pay for it. If you want it, you can either create it yourself or pay someone else to provide it to you.
Yes, but those who don't make a deal and pay up will experience discrimination.
What, like they won't get the service?
Their sites won't load as quickly, and their applications and devices won't work as well.
So they will get the service. It just won't be as good as the people actually paying for it. I'm still waiting to hear the con in all of this.
The network owners say they want a tiered internet. If you pay to get in the top tier, your site and your service will run fast. If you don't, you'll be in the slow lane.
That's not a con. That's a business model that provides a good service to a paying customer and a complimentary service to a bum.
The internet was designed as an open medium.
For the military, they still had to pay for it.
The fundamental idea, since the internet's inception, has been that every website, every feature and every service should be treated without discrimination.
No, it wasn't. The fundamental idea was that there would be an avenue for communication to travel digitally to anywhere across the world. Like roads, airplanes and boats. Those aren't free either.
Discrimination endangers our basic internet freedoms.
You keep using this stigmatized word discrimination. Is that what you think of toll roads?
What?
Toll roads. You say that discrimination endangers our basic freedoms. One of those basic freedoms is the right to travel among states. It's a presumed right based on several constitutional rights that explain it. However, I still have to pay to get where I want to go. If I want to take a shorter route, I can pay a toll on a toll road. Otherwise, I have to take the common man highway with its slow lanes and its traffic. I don't see the toll road as an endangerment to my freedom, or a discrimination against me. If anything, I have discriminated against it by choosing not to pay for it and opting for the highway. It seems to me the only person discriminating against anything so far is you.
Well, traditionally, network owners have built a business model by charging consumers for internet access. Now they want to charge you for access to the network, and then charge you again for the things you do while you're online.
Who cares? Cell phone companies have been doing this since the day before forever. You pay for the phone and the service, and then if you want to text, you pay for that. If you want the internet, you pay for that. If you want your phone to be a hotspot, you pay for that. You weren't complaining then. Why are you complaining now?
Because without net neutrality, we could be headed toward a pay-per-view internet where websites have fees.
So you're saying websites don't already have those? Hulu and Netflix don't have fees? News websites don't charge for memberships to view archived articles?
I'm not talking about the big guys. I'm talking about the small ones. Net neutrality ensures that innovators can start small and dream big about being the next eBay or Google without facing insurmountable hurdles.
Oh my God. This is about websites nobody's ever heard about.
They will if they were given the chance.
They have the same exact chance every other small website that has grown into a large one has had. Penny Arcade began as two guys talking about video games, and now it's about two millionaires talking about video games. They have a gigantic convention of geeks every year based solely on themselves, and they give millions to charity year after year.
Well, I just think.
You just think that eBay, Yahoo and Amazon were gigantic corporate slugs from the beginning, with no origination from some individual's garage. You just think that because you're not able or willing to work hard and suffer for the prize, that nobody else should have to either, even though every major website and every major company started out that same way, from ground up. You just think that everything should be spoon-fed to you because you're a brat that never had to mow his father's lawn or make your bed in the morning. You just think you're entitled to whatever you want without working hard for it.
I work hard for my blog.
There it is. Just what I thought. This is all about you.
Well, me and other people.
And what do you and other people think these big megacorporations are going to do with all that money they want to charge?
Probably sit on it.
Right. Because that's what businesses do. They don't invest in better equipment or improved maintenance. They don't use that money to expand their business and hire more otherwise unemployed persons. No, they sit on all of that money because that's what Scrooge McDuck does in that cartoon you watch to glean your perspective of how the world works. Let me ask you this. How do you enforce net neutrality?
Well, with government regulations on service providers, we can ensure everything is equal.
You ever listen to talk radio?
Oh great, you're a Rush Limbaugh fan.
Shut up and listen. This has nothing to do with Rush. Talk radio is a billion-dollar enterprise providing hundreds of thousands of jobs to families across the United States. The biggest market was conservative talk radio. Don't ask why. Maybe it's because that's all conservatives do. The bottom line is that conservative radio shows succeeded and liberal radio shows did not. Nobody wanted to listen to them, so nobody wanted to host them. In short, if you wanted to be on the radio, you should probably talk conservative. Does that sound like discrimination?
Yes.
Good, you're paying attention. So sometime in the late 70s and early 80s, the government stepped in with regulations to force networks to host the same amount of liberal shows as conservative shows so as to not discriminate. They called this the Fairness Doctrine. So for every conservative show there had to be a liberal show. Well, it turned out, nobody wanted to listen to the liberal shows that aired, so the radio networks either didn't make money or lost money in process. So you know what they did?
Aired more liberal shows?
No, jackass. They shut off both kinds of shows, killing an entire industry. For years all you could listen to was sports and music.
That doesn't sound bad.
To you, because you don't actually care about freedom of speech unless it's your speech being heard. Unfortunately for the hundreds of thousands of call screeners, producers, show hosts and their families, it meant no food on their table. And to the listeners that wanted the content, it meant they couldn't have it.
Then let the government pay for it.
You're an idiot. Where do you think the government's money comes from? They tax you and me to pay for all their services. And their bureaucratic red tape always makes things more expensive than the private sector. We end up paying more for an inferior service. You're so worried about costs going up on these private websites, but you don't seem to care at all about those same costs being implemented by the government. Only, here's the kicker. At least in the private sector, if you don't want it, you don't pay. When you give this net neutrality over to the government and they come to collect, what are you going to tell them if you don't want to pay for it?
But I will pay for it.
Of course you will. Because you're all about yourself. That's not my point. My point is that people who have no desire to read your stupid blog will still have to pay for it. And if they tell your government no, they'll be fined, thrown in jail or worse. You don't have that with a private sector. You can always boycott a private enterprise. The only way you boycott a government is by moving out of the country. And if all the countries are the same, there's nowhere to run. No way to boycott. The answer is simple. With the Fairness Doctrine, the people finally spoke out and the government shut it down, and now we have a flourishing enterprise again. Some people succeed and some don't. That's life. We should have never had the doctrine in the first place. It was a mistake. The answer here is to not make the same mistake with the internet. Just leave the government out of it. Work your blog smart and you'll make it big just like everyone else.
I still think we should have net neutrality.
Of course you do. Just like some people are still fighting to bring back the Fairness Doctrine. Which is why I'm going to make sure I'm at the voting booth the same day you are to cancel your vote.